G'day guys, and welcome to a preview of Hawkesbury for the 28th of April. Hawkesbury Cup, Hawkesbury Gold Crown, Hawkesbury Guineas, Hawkesbury Gold Rush. 4 group races on the program. True rail, which usually means they get a few off the fence. It's a good 4 we're talking here. I think they put 16 mil of water on the track, so I'm expecting them to get off the fence in the straight here. Maybe a 2 or 3. Not impossible to run on in races where it's good tempo, and certainly, as most tracks are, an advantage to be up there if the tempo's even or controlling. So heading into the day with a pretty solid view that most runners will be able to have their chance, and it doesn't look a bad program. First race to start the day, highway handicap, 1100 metre class 3. She Knows comes up at quite a short price favourite here at $1.70. I really couldn't find a case against it. It's 42 days between runs, coming off a Flemington run last start. Just check something out here. Let's see. Just noticing something I missed before, sorry. So She Knows got concussion plates front again, pads front off first time. So obviously some issues with the feet. Just wanted to clarify what those gear changes were, and that'll stop me betting into this horse at $1.80. But it'll definitely won't mean I'll be betting against this horse. Quick run through the rest. Princess Lottie's a horse I had plenty of time for last preparation, but 28 days between runs, got tired first up, and the trial was on the average since, considering it should be pretty much race fit now, and didn't think it went that great. Don't doubt her, 19 days back 200 metres in distance, which can be a positive for this horse, and certainly should be strong late, but we'll give them a start. Call Me Brad, probably second pick, don't doubt her. Call Me Brad has pace going okay. Candleman I thought went well first up, chasing the tempo. Got tired there, about 150 out, so forgive it, and can improve, should be on speed. Whirlwind Ascent usually needs the run fresh, and just a knockout chance. Our Rosemary can miss the start, gets back, and can be strong late, but I do prefer over 1,000 than the 1,100. It's probably his third pick. Bon Allen's pretty weak on pacer. For me, She Knows. Princess Lottie can improve, needs to. Doubt her, should be the closer. Candleman whacks away. Our Rosemary, the wild card, but I do think 1,100 metres will pull it up, and it is clearly She Knows' race to lose. Probably needs to have an issue to get beaten here. Race 2. Here we go. Race 2. Clarendon Stakes. Not a lot of speed on paper. We've got sort of stunts kicking up, possibly from the inside. Has done its best work on speed, and certainly looked one pace last start, going back in distance that suited up to the 1,300 metres here. And we've got, for Federation, who probably comes across from that outside gate, I'm thinking that Cara's Hope with the blinkers off will be looking to take a sit this time. Certainly draws a barrier to do that. Or Scene, who knows where it'll end up, maybe outside leader or midfield. Well, where do we start? Stunts has got a good chance, certainly on speed, if it dictates, and can kick on. I think Graf is the horse to beat clearly. Looks a real line-finding sort of horse, which is great. His trial before the first start was very good. His first start he only put in for a couple of strides, and I really liked what he did. We'll have a look. Just what he does when he finds daylight here, really. So he's in behind them, floating a bit. 1 or 2, still hasn't really put his mind to the job, but when he does, pricks his ears here, and I thought it was all pretty soft when he put in for 1 or 2 strides. And he's done similar in all 3 of his last trial, and then we go to this trial as well. So he's back on the inside here with the yellow cap, gets into him for 1 or 2 strides here, changes gear, and then eases up on him late with some nice horses in these trials. So I think Graf is a real sneaky horse on the up that will take a lot of beating here. All Scene's first up, blinkers off. Trial's been okay. Obviously tackles 1,300 first up which is a new task for this horse and not an easy one from an awkward draw. Can win, but certainly needs favours. Momentum factor 31 days between runs, going up from 11 to 1300. Won a really weak race last start, and I'd have to risk it. Mickey Blue Eyes on debut from the David Hayes stable in Melbourne. Found a few jump outs for it and a trial. They were all solid, but not that of a horse that I really want to jump out of the ground to back at first start in a race. Federation is well set up here. Every possible chance last start, certainly needs to improve. Will get a soft run. And Cara's Hope has looked at a nice horse at times, but that tactics just didn't work out last time with the blinkers and jamming it out. Maybe can improve into the placings with blinkers off, and is probably a knockout winning chance. I've got Graf clearly on top here. Not a real big stunts fan, but definitely gets the right run to be the danger and lead and kick. Graf just needs luck from back in the field. If they go slow, it's probably the only thing that I'm worried about here. But possibly Graf can settle a little bit closer today too from the solid draw. Race 3. Stonebrook looks the leader. Missile Coda certainly draws better here and finds a nice position. King Darcy rolls across from the outside. Possibly Gorwa going forward too. In Times of War hasn't tackled a 1300 fresh like this before, and possibly ends up closer to the speed as well. Darcy's Affair kicks up on the inside, and plenty of horses looking for those positions sort of between 5th and 8th or 9th. So there could be some good pressure here early, which makes the race a little bit tricky. Stonebrook's 28 days off, has had the 2 runs back, and has trialled since its last start 28 days ago. Trialled well at Gosford. Does come back in distance here, but does look to find the front pretty comfortably, and from that position certainly can improve. Don't know what just happened there. And can run an honest race. Dagny, 63 days between runs, awkward draw for mine, and just needs a bit of luck or good tempo on. Not sure where it ends up from that gate. I think it probably gets forced back. Philosophy gets the blinkers on and can improve. The first up run will certainly bring that horse right on. If it sits in there, one of those spots sort of between 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, it can be a challenger in the right part of the track. Intuary's an interesting horse. 26 days between runs, definitely in the wrong spot first up, and ran okay. Can improve significantly, but does it want a little bit further. In Times of War, I can't have 31 days plus 200. 1300 is a risk anyway, and if there's tempo, I think it's in trouble. If there's not, it's really going to have to lob the 1-1 or something crazy to have a good chance. Missile Code is a tricky little horse to find here, just sort of be inside behind the speeds. A funny horse to just, it's the sort of horse that has to hit the front at the right time and really time its run perfectly. Entitled to be odds here, and probably more of a knockout chance. Siren's Fury, just see if it's still in the race. Here it is. We'll give them a start. 98 days, and certainly needs a good tempo and plenty of luck. Gorwa's interesting. Been gelded since its 140-day break as well since its last start, and been gelded. Trials have been pretty good, and just worried about where it ends up. If it sort of cruised outside the leader here, could certainly pick a race up like this, but 1300 metres fresh is just a little bit of a query against him. And the bottom horse, Balmain Boys, a very difficult horse to catch and find, and really deserves to be at least 20-1. Stonebrook, hard to beat. Philosophy looks an improver. Intuary, an improver at odds. I want to find Missile Coda, but I just don't think it's going to find the right spot. And Gorwa's got a good chance, but it's well and truly too short in the market for mine. I think the value lies in marginally Stonebrook and more in Philosophy. I think it's probably your each way bet in a tough race. Race 4. Tempo is pretty quiet here. We've got Nat King Koo, Taikamuchi rolling forward, Hunter Jack, and Up and Rolling. Possibly blinkers come off Up and Rolling, so I doubt it settles as close as this map indicates. Poet's Advocate is the wild card with the blinkers off and the winkers on in the front. It can really get going if it gets fierce, but from that soft draw they'll probably try and take a bit of a sit. Solo Mission's a query where it will get in the run. from the top, up and rolling, 28 days between runs, plus 100 metres is good, and comes out of a really good race last start. Can improve if it finds a nice position early, which it probably should. Nat King Koo leads, not much pressure, and should run along well. Should run well. Place chance better than win chance for mine. Return of Pursuit of Honour here, 518-day break. I'd say it needs racing. You just got to risk it. Hallelujah Boy draws us off gate. Not a strong acceleration horse. Definitely improving with racing since it's been here, and gets a nice run from that soft inside draw, as we're saying. So needs luck, but seems to be improving. Bazelle was ridden quiet last start and really launched for this new trainer in David Smith. Really good to see for him and his stable that he's got this horse back on track, and there was no fluke to that win. It certainly got down the middle, which might have been the best part, but it put every other horse in the race to the sword and really ran through the line. It's definitely a chance of doing similar again, but we'll be giving them a start, which may not be ideal with an average tempo. Hunter Jacks always puts his best form foot forward, 84 days between runs, and drops dramatically in distance. Trials are okay, and is honest that the day is long, but just doesn't really win. It's just a little bit one-paced and usually found out. Devil's Advocate draws the inside, winkers on, blinkers off, has ability when in the mood, so when it feels like putting in, and 20 to 1 is probably fair enough odds, definitely worth specking if you like the horse. Taikamuchi, a super dominant display at Wellington with a big weight first up, used up there and never really gave anything else a chance. Gets the right run again here with only Nat King Koo, its only other real challenger for the front, and possibly could roll to the front if they choose to. No weight in its back this time, and can only see this horse improving off a tough effort first up, and probably the horse to run down. Well, it is the horse to run down. My Taggerson comes off a forgive last start when everything was against. Can be strong late, but we'll get back it on the inside. No Interest gets out to a distance that I think is a query for it, and the blinkers come off. Loses its normal rider, and I think we can risk it today. And the bottom horse is the query runner in the race, being gelded since last seen, no trial. Some overseas form that looks interesting for a race of this nature, and obviously 1,500 metres fresh, also a query. So tough one to line up, and makes the race a little bit scary. I do think Taikamuchi and Bazelle are the interesting runners. Taikamuchi on speed, Bazelle the closer, up and rolling, has a bit of class on them if it's right. Just not sure it's going as well as it can, and if it puts in, it's certainly right in the finish. Bottom horse Solo Mission is scary. Race 5. Good tempo here, surely. There just looks pressure everywhere. Tango Rain's basically forced to lead and roll, trialling that way, and certainly looks to have come back really well. Crossover Noseband goes on, has been gelded, and is the horse to run down. Plenty of company up on speed from Rather Sweet Passage of Time. Spending to Win probably tries to cross a couple and take a sit just behind them. Prince Famous, Isa Rich kick up from the inside draws. The Monster Kuro, Akasaki and Glen all behind. So as you're saying, looks good tempo. Could be a 3 or 4 wide train here, which should play into the hands of the likes of Den Magic, who races well fresh. Even Passage of Time draws nice and wide, which I think suits it. If he can get a 3 wide trail, it's in the race. Spending to Win, another horse going really well. Just the 31 days between runs, a little query, but I don't mind that over these 1100 metre races. And Glen All's interesting. Kuro I thought trialled well and is interesting. Really wide open race. Tango Rain's the one to run down. I think it'll really put the speed on, and a horse like Den Magic sitting off the speed and wide could be the closer, but a very difficult race with plenty of chances, and the betting should tell a few stories to the resuming horses who were hard to beat, but I think Spending to Win and Den Magic look the stalkers that could be finishing over the top. Tango Rain, if it's ready to go, which it looks like it should be, we'll give them something to catch from the front. Race 6. Not a huge amount of tempo here. I think Alliterate's a big chance of coming out, which he pulls even more tempo out. White Moss and Louboutin should cruise across. Madison Avenue probably the only one who wants to kick up and have a safe in the lead, with Pecan, Slow Burn, probably sharpness, and maybe Sedanza kicking up in behind. Maybe sharpness has come out. It has come out, so takes even further pressure out of the race. White Moss certainly the one that looks to get the right run on speed and the horse to beat. Very good first up, chasing at a frantic tempo. Should bring the horse right on. 2 weeks since that, and up 100 metres look no problem at all. Also, its regular rider Jason Collett gets back aboard. Plenty of ticks in the White Moss boxes. Going from the top, Cassoni, certainly fitter, draws well, can improve. Nancy, 35 days between runs, has trialled well since, draws horrifically here and probably gives them a huge start. Hard to have it. Sprite had excuses, genuine excuses. Last start it was very difficult to make ground from where it was, copped a bump on the turn, and just the 1300 metres a query for me here, and probably the inside draw, but you can see it sneaking runs and exploding late and running over you. So it's certainly one to throw in quaddies and definitely can win. As we said, White Moss hard to beat. Louboutin I think just lacks a gear change here at the end of her races to take care of these runners. Pecans was in enormous form last preparation, 121 days off, trialled up 3 times, so you'd say she's ready to go here over the 1300 metres fresh. Looks to get a nice enough run across, just in behind the speed, following White Moss across, and can run positive race. Shazzy Leo, who I liked first up, gets the blinkers off. A terrible draw, huge start, and in the Nancy category of probably needing all the luck to win. Invincibella ran well first up. Draws nicely to just settle in behind this tempo and should be coming home late, an each way chance. Sedanza's a very talented horse for mine who's got gears. I thought the second trial was a huge improvement on the first trial. Hopefully doesn't get too far back here and holds sort of a just forward to midfield position and should be strong late. No for Heady Heights, slow burn, certainly improved last up, but needs to platform off that again, and I couldn't find the rest. White Moss clearly on top, but not super short from Pecans getting the right run, Sedanza getting the right run. Sedanza's probably second pick, but certainly short enough in the market. Shazzy Lee, the knockout at huge odds, and scared of Sprite on that inside run. Cassoni has the ability, if it feels like putting it all together. Hawkesbury Cup, race 7. Ecuador cruises forward. Lavani took the sit last time and raced well. I doubt that it'd probably want to take these horses on, especially coming back in distance. You'd expect it to take a sit just behind them here. Ecuador dictates. McIntosh and King's Guard are up there for sure. Definitely King's Guard. Ecuador looks the one to run down. Really nice effort first up when fighting back late. Hasn't won in a while though, but and he's second up. But looks to be going really well, and it was saved for this race by the looks of it. So you'd have to say it's probably the hardest horse to beat. Duca Valentina, I thought was quite interesting. Has been drawing poorly. Finally draws a gate, gets a positive rider change, and should settle a little bit closer to the speed here and finish off. It has trialled since its last run too, which I like. A lot of ticks in the Duca Valentina boxes. McIntosh, a query runner, first start for a new stable. McCreary's very honest, draws inside and probably needs luck from that gate. It goes back 400 metres in distance, which is not an easy task. Mr. Seawolf for mine has had its chance to win a few races and hasn't stuck its nose out. It's a horse that I'm happy to be against at this level. And each way he played, placed much preferred. I thought Kingsguard had its chance last start, and it was certainly soft late, no real excuses, and had to improve. Hardicus is a knockout, but looks to need more racing. My Nordic Hero in very similar fashion, 28 days between runs, a lacklustre effort first up, but can improve. Lavani gets up in grade here drastically, but it does come off a solid win last time in really fast time. Looks to get the right run again and should whack away. And Place here is a very, very honest type that looks to get back and should be strong. So for me, I think two clear horses that are hardest to beat are Ecuador up on the speed, Duca Valentina chasing it, and hard to find a really open third pick, or hard to find a clear third pick in an open race behind those two. And I just like them because they look to be in form, look to be well set up, and look to get the right run. from an easy-ish looking race on paper with not too many surprises to this really difficult Hawkesbury Guineas. Not a lot of speed. Liz Doonvana rolls forward. All Too Wing rolls forward. There'll be a couple of others roll forward, you'd imagine. Warranty settles closer than last time. Montrachet certainly goes forward. Sambro's kind of drawn in a position where it has to chance its arm and follow follow Montrachet across, you would imagine. Hope to find a position. Victorium's drawn out in absolute no man's land. Huge win in the country final, changing direction, held up, really sprinted when it saw daylight there, and is a serious horse. Just raises in grade here, draws terribly, and really does need to have a huge class edge on them to justify the 280, which I'm not convinced of here because there are some really strong types. Beau Guest, certainly D-Day has come. Back in distance here, really looked a bit one pace last start, had its chance and just whacked away. I'm just not sure about this horse. I had a huge opinion of it early. So You Win, 35 days between runs, back 600 metres. I'm happy to risk it today. Green Park first up, I find it too hard a task for it off a 91-day break. By Kingdom Come, every possible chance, really does need to find a couple of lengths off its last start effort. Charlie Chap, I think, is enigmatic and not surprised if it runs a race, but have to risk it. It's a definite no for Done a Ton. Colonel Jackson's a very underrated type for me that went really well first up. I really liked its last 100 metres there. It's a positive rider change. It should settle midfieldish and be strong late and can run a race at odds. Futu's a very good horse. It's jumping in grade and should have won first up in a much weaker event, but another horse that loves to find the line, draws ideally and can run a race at odds into multiples. Warranty was very good at a distance short of her best there the other 10 days ago. Raises 300 metres in distance, and I think that looks ideal off that run, which I think was, I'm not going to say it was a barrier trial, but this was the race they were targeting, and that was the race that they were using to get here. And it happened to win that race, which was obviously great for connections, but I don't think they were too concerned if it got beat there and it was all about today. So I expect it to race closer, just behind the speed and run a very good race. Liz Doonvana was enormous last start. I just worried that it was too big a run off a 7-day break. If it leads and finds a tempo that's even half suitable, I can imagine it running a monster race here. Montrachet we've talked about briefly, was a good win first up and has good speed. Rolls forward here, and I really think it needs to lift. I think it's well found around $8, considering Warranty's a similar price and coming off some far better form, and definitely doesn't get in too well at the weights. Montrachet, haven't talked about Sambro, was very, very good first up, unlucky second up, has trialled really well since, and a classy enough type to be right in this sort of race with a little bit of luck early, which it looks to get. It just has to follow that horse across in Montrachet. Good race. Victorium hardest to beat, but certainly needs all the luck in the world. Warranty gets the race run. Liz Doonvana's the one that I was looking to back off its last start effort. Probably not in a race this deep, but does look to get the front, and that's enough to be interested in backing it. Value runners Futu and Colonel Jackson to run races at big odds. Lucky last. The Roman Sun comes up odds on. Has trialled since its last start win. Certainly looks absolutely airborne. Draws ideally. Karen McAvoy to ride. Absolutely no knock on it in any way, shape or form, even though it's up in distance off a 26-day break, which is never normally my thing, especially for stayers, but this looks a pretty nice horse and it has trialled. Naval Warfare, the top weight, looks well set up. Good on pace win last start, and at the same trip here will be whacking away with a handy little claim for Lee McGorian. Multifacets was solid back in trip last start, suited back up to this distance, just a rough hope. Mazaz very similarly, 31 days between runs, has trialled back in distance and looks a decent chance from a good draw. Mornington was good first up, trialled since, only a place hope for mine, similar to Letter for Juliet, who is racing well, but I'd prefer at the place, got a tough task from where it's drawn. Bon Equus is honest but limited. Concessions needed more racing, and no one know for the bottom two for me. It's certainly all about Roman Sun here, and then the Waller runners in Naval Warfare, Multifacets and Mazaz look to get the right runs behind it to run positive races. just a matter of whether they can beat this horse who looks to be flying, the stable's flying, and probably the horse you'd mark shortest on the day, apart from She Knows in the first, who has those couple of gear changes with feet issues, obviously. But looks a mixed day of interesting betting races, tough betting races, a couple that are really tough. But all in all, I don't mind betting at Hawkesbury. I like it as a betting track, so hopefully we have a bit of luck and get away with a victory. Thanks, guys.